Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott Manning coming to you live from YouTube Sports Talk. I want to thank all of you for being with me here this morning. I know it's just now turned into the wee hours of the morning here on Sunday morning here in the eastern part of the country, but a very long day in college football is now over. What a day it has been. Ohio State survived a scare against Maryland today, 52-51. Michigan survived Indiana 31-20. Oklahoma State has just really thrown a mess into the Big 12 race after knocking off West Virginia 45-41. And Texas Iowa State wasn't much of a ball game at all. But anyway, I got all the games. Those are the 4 games I want to talk about. I'm going to hand out my game balls, and then I'm going to hand out my game of the day picks. And stay tuned at the end of the show because I'm going to be making 2 special announcements at the end of the show. So please stay tuned for those. But right now, we have a lot to talk about. I'm just going to get started because I'm not going to waste any more time tonight. Number 10 Ohio State needed overtime to survive Maryland today, 52-51. It took a missed 2-point conversion by Maryland to give the victory to Ohio State today. Wow. Dwayne Haskins, 28 of 38, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He also carried the ball 15 times for 59 yards and he had 3 touchdowns on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, a career day for him. 37 carries, 203 yards, and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. And Johnny Dixon, 6 receptions for 102 yards. I've seen crazy things happen here at Ohio State, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is one of the most crazy games I've ever seen. We got dominated today by Maryland, if you think about it. If you stop and think about it, it all started with Anthony McFarland having 280-yard runs into the end zone for a touchdown. The defense stayed home today, and at a very bad time. We almost threw this game away. Well, think about it. Tyrell Pigram, 6 of 13, 181 yards and a touchdown. That was it for him. Anthony McFarland, he was the biggest headache that the Buckeyes had all day. 21 carries, 298 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, Urban Meyer, I thought he was about ready to throw up. I thought he was gonna vomit right there on the field. He was so disgusted. Me, I've been cussing and screaming like a sailor, to the point where I was about ready to get the belt out and beat him and give him a good old-fashioned country whipping. We almost lost this game today, folks, and our Big Ten championship hopes may have almost went right out the window. But I will give Maryland credit. Maryland, they played their hearts out They played their hearts out all day. Ohio State didn't have the lead until going into overtime. We finally got the lead in the first overtime, and Maryland had a chance. And you know what? I will give Matt Canada, interim coach of Maryland, Matt Canada, credit. He went for 2 because he wanted to end the game with Dwayne Haskins on the sidelines. And you know what? I applaud him for it. A lot of people said he's crazy. Matt Canada's out of his mind. No. I will say this, though. In all fairness to Matt Canada, he made a gutsy call. It just didn't work out. It was just a miscommunication that cost Maryland the game. And I'm going to tell you something right now. My hats go off to Maryland interim coach Matt Canada for everything he's done so far. Considering everything that Maryland has been through, the DJ Durkin mess, the death of Jordan McNair during summer practices. The fallout is still going to be going through the university. But I will say this, though. But I will say this for Matt Canada. He's a gutsy player. He's a gutsy coach. And I got to tell you something. He's a great coach, and I'm not going to take anything away from him. I personally hope and pray he gets named head coach. He gets the interim part removed from him. He becomes head coach at the University of Maryland. He did everything well. He did everything right. It was just a miscommunication at the end that gave Ohio State the victory. But I will say this, though. Urban Meyer, it took until after overtime to finally get him to crack a smile because he was down on his knees. And it is pretty bad when you're bent all the way down trying to look at your butthole. And that's what Urban Meyer was doing. Because he was so frustrated, and who could blame him? But Ohio State goes back home to Columbus against Michigan next week for the Big Ten East crown. And the winner of that game gets Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know if I don't even want to play the Wildcats right now because Northwestern is the real deal. Don't let that 8-4 or 9-4 record fool you. All of Northwestern's losses came in non-conference play. But Northwestern has won their last 14 out of 15 games in the Big Ten. There's a lot of concerns there. So don't take Northwestern lightly either. And that goes for both Michigan and Ohio State. Whoever has to face Northwestern in the Big Ten title game. There's a lot at stake, and I don't think anybody realizes how good Northwestern is. Michigan almost lost to them earlier in the season. So deep down inside, I've got a strange feeling that some of the Northwestern fans are going to want Michigan because they're going to want another crack at them. But we'll see what happens next Saturday between Michigan and Ohio State. But for the time being, let's just say, I would say, thank you, Lord. I'm glad it was over. I mean, in the fourth quarter and in overtime, I was sweating like crazy. I had to go up the stairs to take a shower right after the game just to clean up because I was a mess. And I admit it. And I think everybody in the country right now, all the Ohio State fans are thinking the same thing at this moment. But I'm not going to talk about anything further as far as Ohio State goes because I got other things I want to talk about. And speaking of Michigan today, Michigan had a little bit of a rough time today with Indiana. They're trying to get bowl eligible too. Now, Michigan did come back to beat Indiana 31-20. Shea Patterson, 16-28, 250 yards and a touchdown. He also had 9 carries for 68 yards. Karan Higdon, 21 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown. I'll give him credit for that any day of the week. For Indiana, Peyton Ramsey, 16-35, 195 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He also carried the ball 7 times for 51 yards. Stevie Scott, 30 carries, 139 yards, and a touchdown today. Now, I watched some of that game today, and I've got to be honest with you. I was a little bit surprised that Indiana got a little bit of a lead. I mean, Michigan had 4 trips to the red zone in the first half, only had 9 points to show for it. Indiana in the first half had 2 trips to the red zone. They punched it into the end zone. And I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting too. I watched some of it for a while, but then in the end, Michigan kind of pulled away. But on the stats battle, it was fairly close. On first downs, Michigan had 25 first downs, Indiana's 21. Michigan was 7-15 on third down today, which is I like to call the money down, because that's where the coaches can make their money. And Indiana was 9-17 on third down. Total yards, Michigan had 507 total yards to Indiana's 385. Penalties, it was kind of iffy today. Michigan was penalized 4 times for 45 yards, while Indiana was penalized 7 times for 62 yards. Turnovers. Indiana turned the ball over twice to Michigan only having 1. And Michigan one time of possession, big 35 minutes. They had the ball for almost 36 minutes today. Well, I can put it to you simple. Michigan, Ohio State for the Big Ten East crown. That's all it boils down to, baby. All the Michigan fans were rooting so hard for Maryland. I think Michigan forgot about Indiana today, too. This Saturday in the Big Ten was crazy. But I'm going to be honest with you. I was never so impressed. Michigan looked a little bit iffy today. Karan Higdon wasn't exactly spectacular like I've seen in the past. But I will say this, though. The battle for the Big Ten East is going to be very interesting to see how this one goes. Michigan's playing for a whole other reason. They're trying to stay in the college football playoff race. Ohio State is Ohio State's playing the role of spoiler. So if you really stop and think about it, Ohio State really has nothing to lose. Yes, they're going to be battling for a Big Ten championship. However, Michigan's got something else riding on the line. That college football playoff spot. And Ohio State Ohio State now is probably going to be reduced to the role of spoiler. So really, in hindsight, if you stop and think about it, Ohio State has nothing to lose. So they can go out there, take care of business, and maybe shake up the college football playoff race. They can definitely do that. But I'll tell you right now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the later in the week. And with Michigan, Ohio State coming up, anything can happen, and it usually does. But I will say this, though. This battle for next Saturday between Michigan and Ohio State is going to be something worth watching. And this is it. The showdown in the shoe. And that's the best way I can put it. Now, I have to talk, there's one upset of the day that I have to talk about. Oklahoma State upset number 9 West Virginia today in Stillwater. 45-41 victory for Oklahoma State today. Oklahoma State, Taylor Cornelius, 30 of 46, 338 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He also carried the ball 13 times for 160 yards and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, 26 carries, 134 yards today. Dylan Stoner, 9 receptions, 127 yards. Tylan Wallace, maybe 7 receptions, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns today. For West Virginia, Will Greer, 27 of 48, 364 yards, 2 touchdowns. I hate numbers like that in a losing effort. Kennedy McCoy, 21 carries, 148 yards. Gary Jennings Jr., 7 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. David Sills, 4 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Late in the game, this is what happened in the ball game today. Will Greer was trying to throw it to, I think it was Gary Jennings Jr. he was trying to throw it to, and the ball fell incomplete on the final play, which gave Oklahoma State a big upset victory today. And let's think about this for today. Let's think about this for today. Oklahoma State won the stats battle. Think about it. On first downs, Oklahoma State had 35 first downs to West Virginia's 25. Oklahoma State was 6 of 14 on third down today. West Virginia had some struggles on third down, going 5 of 18. Oklahoma State had 604 yards total offense to West Virginia's 533. Oklahoma State was only penalized 3 times for 35 yards, and West Virginia was penalized 5 times for 24 yards. Now, despite the fact that Oklahoma State turned the ball over today 4 times, they still won. That was a crazy game. A lot of people said that was a crazy game. I just called it another typical Saturday in the Big 12. What can you say? Now, this is going to get interesting next week. West Virginia, Oklahoma. And keep in mind, Oklahoma did beat Kansas today 55-40. The defense gave up 40 points in the victory over Kansas today. There's a lot to think about there too. Now, West Virginia losing to Oklahoma State. How far will West Virginia fall? There's a couple of good questions there. However, I will say this though. Next Friday night, when these two teams face off, it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, West Virginia is going to be playing angry. And I think, and everybody understands that maybe Oklahoma, I saw something in Oklahoma today that didn't look too good. I mean, Kansas was only 3-7, and their defense gave up 40. That's not good. But I will say this though, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this goes the rest of the way. But I will say this though, West Virginia still has a chance to be in the Big 12 championship, and I'm going to explain why when I get done talking about the next game. Now, number 16, Iowa State. Number 15, Texas. Texas beat Iowa State tonight 24-10. Sam Ehlinger, he had to leave the game because of a shoulder injury, but he went 12 of 15 for 137 yards and a touchdown. He carried the ball 8 times for 32 yards and had a touchdown on the ground. Trey Watson, 14 carries, 93 yards. Little Jordan Humphrey, 7 receptions, 86 yards and a touchdown on the ground today. Keontae Ingram, 12 carries, 57 yards, but he also had 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown tonight. Texas did their job. But let's think about Iowa State for a minute. Brock Prudy, 10 of 23, 130 yards and an interception. David Montgomery, he was not much of a factor at all. 10 carries, 33 yards and a touchdown. Hakeem Butler, 6 catches, 99 yards, and that was it for him. Texas dominated this game tonight. I mean, let's think about this. The Texas defense did their job. They definitely did their job tonight. Listen to this. Iowa State, 12 first downs, 210, and they only allowed 210 yards. Let's think about this. Iowa State. The Texas defense did their job because listen to this. For Iowa State, the Iowa State offense had 12 first downs and 210 yards total offense for the game. And, of course, Iowa State turned the ball over twice. I don't want to hear anybody say that the David Montgomery first half suspension was the reason why they lost. The Texas defense did their job tonight. And I mean, Iowa State was only 5 of 15 on third down. And Texas had the ball for 35 minutes. That's what happened. Iowa State couldn't do anything on offense tonight. And it was bad. They only had 210 yards total offense. That's a bad performance by an Iowa State team. And they had a chance, a golden opportunity with West Virginia losing to jump in and get into the Big 12 championship game. That is now gone. They lost that. So now it's really down to Oklahoma, West Virginia, Texas for the Big 12. That's all it boils down to. And there's a lot of things that are going on there as well. If West Virginia knocks off Oklahoma, it's going to be West Virginia, Texas. If Oklahoma beats West Virginia, we could have a rematch of the Red River Shootout. And I'm going to tell you right now, Iowa State is they're now out of it because of what happened tonight in Austin. Now, Texas numbers were not that impressive either. 20 first downs, 8 of 15 on third down, 405 yards total offense, penalized 3 times for 25 yards, and they had 1 turnover. And that was it. But the defense did their job. They did what they had to do. They kept the Texas offense off the field. And defense wins championships, baby. That's an old saying in sports. In college football or any sport, defense wins championships. And I'm going to tell you right now, that saying could have been proven here tonight, down in Austin, Texas. Now, I grant you the game was on the Longhorn Network and hardly anybody got to see it. But it was really certainly a little bit of a lackluster, considering everything that we had to go through tonight. Now, before I present game balls, just real quick, I just want to let everybody know Central Florida's winning streak is still intact at 23 straight after beating Cincinnati tonight 38-13. Notre Dame took care of it. Number 3 Notre Dame is still in after beating number 12 Syracuse 36-3 today over at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx today. I figured I'd put those out now. I didn't write any of the numbers down, write down any of that information because there were blowouts and I didn't want to waste a lot of time with them. Now, Central Florida has clinched a spot in the American Athletic Conference Championship game here in 2 weeks. And that's going to be big too. Can they keep their winning streak going? And as it stands right, they're the AAC East champions. The West champion has yet to be determined. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be next week is going to be very, very crazy. It's rivalry Saturday, and then we'll have conference championship weekend on top of that as well. But I'm going to say this though, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a crazy college. It's going to be a crazy college football weekend, and I'm going to say this now. You thought this week was crazy. Next Saturday is just going to be as crazy yet. And that's all I'm going to say for right now. All right. It is now time to hand out some game balls for this day. Out of the games that I saw here today that got my attention, I got to hand out the game balls. First, for the Ohio State-Maryland game, I got to hand out 4 game balls. The first game ball goes to Dwayne Haskins. 28-38, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. 15 carries, 59 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He said J.T. Barrett's touchdown record from last year, and he said Eddie George's all-time passing record from 20-some years ago. He broke 2 records today. So therefore, Dwayne Haskins, my friend, you just got yourself a Scott Manning game ball. And it was also a historical day for J.K. Dobbins, too. 37 carries, 203 yards, and a touchdown. That is an all-time high for him. He set a new record for career high for most carries, but he had 203 yards rushing today. So J.K. Dobbins, once again, sir, congratulations to you. You just got yourself a Scott Manning game ball. Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. And also, too, Johnny Dixon, 6 receptions for 102 yards. Congratulations to you two gentlemen. You two just got yourself a Scott Manning game ball. But before I move on to the next game, I just got to do this. I know it's a losing effort, and I know Maryland lost today. But you know what? I'm going to do something nice for Anthony McFarland. Anthony McFarland, 21 carries, 298 yards, and two touchdowns on the ground today. I'm going to give you a Scott Manning game ball for the effort that you gave against Ohio State today. And I'm gonna do that. I rarely do that, but I just feel the need to do it. And that's all I'm not gonna go any further on that here this evening. So congratulations to my game ball winners for that game. The next game, Michigan, Indiana. For Michigan, Shea Patterson, 16 to 28, 250 yards and a touchdown. 9 carries and 68 yards for him as well. Karan Higdon, 21 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown. Congratulations to you two gentlemen. The both of you are once again recipients of a Scott Manning game ball. And now, for the Oklahoma State-West Virginia contest. First of all, Taylor Cornelius, 30 of 46, 338 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He carried the ball he had 13 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown on the ground today. Chuba Hubbard, 26 carries, 134 yards. Dylan Stoner, 9 catches, 127 yards. Taylon Wallace, 7 receptions, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I just want to congratulate the 4 of you gentlemen. The 4 of you gentlemen have just got yourself a Scott Manning game ball. For the Texas-Iowa State contest, well, it's kind of an interesting thing I'm going to do. Sam Ehlinger, despite the fact that Sam Ehlinger had to leave the game, he was 12 of 15 for 137 yards, a touchdown, 6 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And for the Texas defense, you held Iowa State's offense in check. You held them to 12 first downs, 210 yards for the game. I also want to congratulate Sam Ehlinger. You, sir, just got yourself a Scott Manning game ball. And for the Texas defense, the entire Texas defense, the defensive coordinators, the defensive, and all the guys on the defense, congratulations to that entire group. I am going to give that whole entire group a Scott Manning game ball. Because for the way you stopped Iowa State, you held David Montgomery to nothing. You stopped the run. I mean, if you stop and think about it, you guys did your jobs here today. Think about it for a second. Brock Purdy, 10 to 23, 130 yards and an interception. David Montgomery, you took him right out of the game early. Now, I grant you, David Montgomery was suspended for the first half. But the Texas defense stepped up to the plate tonight. Stepped up to the plate and did their job. So, before I go any further, I want to congratulate all my game ball winners. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my game picks of the day. The game of the day picks. I got 4 games. There will be 2 winners this time. The 4 nominees are Ohio State, Maryland, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Michigan, Indiana, Texas, Iowa State. And the winners are Ohio State, Maryland for that 52-51 battle they gave. And the other winner is Oklahoma State, West Virginia for Oklahoma State pulling off the upset of the day. So congratulations to my game of the day winners, and congratulations to my game ball winners here this evening. You guys, it was a wild day in college football. You think this weekend's was wild? Next weekend is just going to be as crazy. Which leads me to my closing thoughts. I'm going to give my closing thoughts, and then I want to make 2 announcements before I go. Now, next week is Rivalry Saturday. There's a lot of games at stake. There's still a lot at stake. The Big 12 championship game has yet to be decided. The Pac-12 North, that's going to be up for grabs next week between Washington and Washington State. That's going to be a huge game next week. Notre Dame, if they beat USC next week, they're in the college football playoff. Alabama faces Auburn. That's a big one. Can Auburn spoil the party? We don't know. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan's fighting to stay in the college football playoff race. Ohio State has now, in my opinion, has been reduced to the role of spoiler. They can still spoil the party for Michigan. And I'm going to tell you right now, Urban Meyer's had Jim Harbaugh's number. Maryland plays Penn State next week. They're trying to get bowl eligible. After everything they've been through, with DJ Durkin, Matt Canada leading the team in a rough time, after almost pulling off the upset over Ohio State today, that would be huge. Oklahoma faces West Virginia on a Friday night. and the Big 12, with Big 12 championship implications on the line. But we need to think about the Texas Longhorns too, because Texas is going to be watching that one. Now, Washington State face off on Friday night. And there's still going to be a lot at stake. And everybody knows it. But what about Stanford Cal? That game was supposed to have been today. But the game has been moved to December 1st because of the California wildfires. And due to the safety concerns out on the West Coast. Rivalry, this Saturday is over. Rivalry Saturday is next Saturday, with a lot to be determined. Clemson looks like they're going to be in the driver's seat to be in the ACC championship game, and they'll face the Pitt Panthers. And as far as Oklahoma, West Virginia went down today. But Oklahoma's defense gave up 40 points in their victory over Kansas. The defense still has a lot of work to do. And you know Will Greer, me, Mr. High Flyer, will do anything in his power to win that game. The Big 12 championship game could be Oklahoma, West Virginia meeting back to back. It could be a rematch of the Red River Shootout. But also too, it could be Texas facing West Virginia. There's a lot of variables there, and there's a lot to it. And I'm going to tell you right now, Rivalry Saturday is going to be very crazy, and that's all there is to it, ladies and gentlemen. And that's all there is to it. And it's going to be very crazy. All right, just a couple more things before I go. Number one, Friday morning, November 23rd, the day after Thanksgiving, I am going to be doing a very special Friday morning edition of the Scott Manning YouTube College Football Podcast pregame show. That's Friday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. to get you ready for Rivalry Weekend. Because we have two big rivalry games, Oklahoma, West Virginia, playing on Friday night. We also got Washington State going on at the same time. So after careful consideration and after consulting with all my friends and all my family, they said to me, Scott, why don't you do a Friday morning show at 9 a.m.? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. This Friday morning coming, 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. in the morning, here on the East Coast of the United States, the day after Thanksgiving, I'm going to be doing a very special edition of the Scott Manning YouTube College Football Podcast pregame show. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to do another Friday morning special on November 30th. On November 30th, the weekend of Conference Championship weekend in college football, I have decided to make some minor. I know my timing may not be the world's best, okay? But I need to do this, and it's the right thing to do in my opinion. The name of the show is going to be changing from the Scott. It's not going to be, starting on November 30th, the name of the show is going to be changing to the Scott Manning College Football / Basketball Show. It's still going to be a podcast like any other podcast. But I'm putting this out now, so this way you guys know what's going on. But I'm going to tell you right now, it has been a crazy day. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time with me here tonight, or into the wee hours of the morning here in the eastern part of the United States. But I want to, and also too, thank you so much for being with me here this evening. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me on this night. Thank you so much for being with me. I will be back next Friday morning, this coming Friday morning at 9 a.m. And actually on Tuesday night, after the new college football playoff rankings will be released, I'll be back for Tuesday night at 8 o'clock to give you my take on those. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much for being with me, and God bless.